Hey guys, it's Emily, your resident little Lotte, and this is my cosplay journey through Christine's Hannibal costume. What I love about this costume is that there is so much you can do with it. There are so many different versions of it depending on the production or time period that you don't really have to be 100% canon to any specific one. You just get the basics in there and then go to town. So to start everything off, I ordered a plain red corset from Amazon, nothing expensive, to serve as the base for the bodice. Then I ordered red and green cord from a craft store to use for the skirt. The gold was the belt for a Roman toga costume. In this portion, you can see that I've already done most of the green. I did run out the first time around and had to order more, and I'm now working on the red. This ended up being completely pointless because the red cord that they sent me was not what I ordered, and ended up not only being a different thickness than the green, but it was also different material. At first I thought, maybe some variance in texture will be cool, but then I started to run into some problems. The main problem was the material that it was made from. You might have noticed some smoke in the beginning, and that is because I needed to use a lighter to melt the end fibers to keep them from fraying. This worked on the green because they were made from a synthetic material and melted. The red was obviously made from something more natural because they were literally just burning. So I had to just take the hit and reorder, and then the second time around they sent me the correct product. So after getting some initial measurements for the cordage, I moved on to the sleeves. So you can see that I'm kind of following the 25th anniversary production style here at first, just using regular colored bicone beads, and the clear ones are iridescent, even though it's kind of hard to tell in the video, so that it didn't end up looking cheap and was a little more faithful to the costume. At one point, one of the straps sadly broke, and I ended up having to redo it. When that happened, I obviously lost quite a few of the beads and did not have enough extra, so I had to order more, and I accidentally ordered the wrong color, so I ended up having to do them all over again. Next, because the green fabric for the panels hadn't arrived yet, and I'm impatient, I started working on the gold breastplate, made from a fabulous gold applique that I found online, and added the red center gem and the little draping beads. Not all versions of the costume have those, but I just really like it. It's very extra, and the whole costume is just extra. So I did end up doing those over again as well, this time with some really cool gold ornate spacer beads. I just really wanted to make this very glam, because it is a very fabulous costume and one of my favorites in the show. Finally, the green fabric came in and I could start on the paneling. I'm using green velvet, which ended up being perfect. As you can see here, as I'm sewing, I'm having a bit of a nostalgia moment and I'm jamming to some 90s pop. Don't judge me. I admit I am not a seamstress, which is why I liked this costume, since it doesn't require a ton of good technical sewing like it would if it were being made with a pattern. My mom and my seamstress friend are going to teach me when we get to those costumes. So therefore, basically, you can see that I'm going very haphazardly about cutting the sections for the panels. And because of that, and the fact that the corset has curves and you are not just sewing in a straight line, it was just a mess trying to get them straight and not be lumpy once I got them sewn on. I just used a basic running stitch because I'm a basic bitch, and like I said, still need help in that department. Sarah, I know how badly you must be cringing right now. Here I'm finally sewing on the skirt cordage. I doubled them over and secured them with a clear poly hairband, and then stitch them as securely into place as possible. Back to the breastplate, I've finished the other side of the draping beads and am now adding in the rest of the gems. That one I stuck in the wrong place, so when I moved it, it of course left a real nasty looking glue mess. Thankfully, the red gem I put there instead, and the draping beads took care of that. I also put red gems descending down the middle applique, which you will see in a lot of versions of the costume. By this point, I had unfortunately run out of fabric glue, so I was now using Gorilla Glue, and while very strong, it does take a lot longer to dry, so that was a little frustrating. I then moved on to the belt, which is made from the same applique as the breastplate, and added red and green gems. You won't see that in all of the versions of this costume. Sometimes it's a little bit more subtle, but in the, particularly the Julie Hansen era, it is very obvious and out there. I just really thought it would look awesome in this particular case. As you can probably see, I have Markiplier there in the background, Alien Isolation, for about the 1000th time, to be precise. Moving on to the wig. This was the first lace front wig that I've owned. I got it from Royal Enchantments on Etsy, so be sure to check them out. Pro tip, never put on your wig upside down like you see in those stupid Facebook adverts. It'll ruin the styling. I also do not recommend trimming the lace yourself while wearing the wig. I eventually gave up, especially trying to avoid all those little tendrils hanging down, and I just took it off and trimmed it that way for accuracy's sake. This is just some fine detail work. I'm trimming off any extra lace from the applique like you would a lace front wig, just to make sure it's very clean and neat looking. Now we are back to the skirt, and it's time to trim it to the right length. When I did my initial measurements, I forgot about the small fact that I needed to adjust the height of the mannequin before doing so, because I'm short as hell. So here I am, after getting it to the right height, securing the ends with clear poly hair bands to prevent unraveling, and then cutting them to proper length. After securing the ends with the poly bands and trimming the ends, we are back to our old friend the lighter to melt the ends to prevent nasty fraying. Because all of the cords are the same material this time, the method actually worked, and they actually melted instead of straight up catching on fire. This was so tedious, and I actually ended up using all of the fuel in the lighter and gave myself a huge blister on my thumb. I have no idea where my stick lighter went, or I would have used that. One funny other thing I didn't take into account that actually affected the length in this case is that my mannequin is not the same size as me. I do not know why I did not take that into account when I bought it, but my mannequin is a size 6 or 8, and I am a dress size 0 to 2. So because it has hips and I don't, the cords ended up being a little longer than I planned. But at this point, I was not about to repeat the whole trimming and melting process. Ladies and gentlemen, just do it the proper way and measure your own legs when you do this kind of thing. But cosplay is all about trial and error and learning until you find what works, so that's why I leave my mistakes in. Next, it's time to break in the pointe shoes. One of the first things you want to do is scratch up the bottom real well so that you can have some grip and you aren't slipping everywhere. They make special tools for this, but even though I take ballet, I'm not on point, so I'm just using a pocket knife here. The next thing you want to do is break in the toe box. Even if you aren't dancing in them, leaving the toe box stiff will be extremely uncomfortable and be difficult to walk in. So just smush it up as much as you can. You can see me stepping on it here. Man, if you could have heard that super satisfying pop once you get it. Then you want to bang them around a bit because they are very loud at first, and that will help take care of that. After that, just slide your foot in and tighten and trim the strings. These are very cheap Pointe shoes from Amazon, like 13 bucks, because I am not paying for an $80 pair of Russian points that I'll never actually dance in. Now we begin on the back cord panel that will cover my little butt once in costume. One problem that presented itself once I got working on this cosplay was, how am I putting it on? Because there is so much going on in the front with appliques and beads, there was just no way to keep this in a front opening corset. So I Gorilla Glued the clasps in place and made a permanent fixture of the front. Though a daunting task, unlacing and lacing back up the back was the lesser of two evils when it came to getting in and out of the costume. Now, because this is a corset and does not close all the way in the back, I needed to find a way to not have my rear end exposed at cons. So I took long strips of Velcro, applied one side to the inside of the bodice, and sewed on more cordage and belt applique to the other, and made an adjustable bridge that you could open and close. It doesn't look perfect, and if I had come up with the idea sooner, I would have left more length in the belt so that it would be a little bit more cohesive, but it's the back, so I didn't worry about it too much. Last thing we're doing to the dress is adding the bling on the skirt so that it is extra all the way to the ground. Now that the dress is finished and the wig is on, it's time for the crown. This is the one thing I did not make myself, but found online, and I knew it was just perfect. It looks very similar to Sierra Bodge's crown in the 25th anniversary. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the finished product. Overall, this cosplay took about 34 hours of work, and since there was a lot of trial and error. But overall, due to waiting for shipments of materials, it took me approximately 2 months total to complete. I am so happy with how this turned out, and I cannot wait to wear it to my next con. My next project will be what is basically an accessory to this costume, the iconic white dressing gown. Stay fantastic with a PH, and keep your hand at the level of your eyes. See, Broadway, I can look like Christine. Hire me!